Okay, in this session we're going to make it so that our upgrade information updates when we hover over the button. If it looks like my little window down here is moving, it's because I'm just aware that with certain options, for example this, if I go do that, I want to make sure you can see which item I'm clicking on, so that's why I've moved slightly to the left. First things first, we want to open the script for our buy upgrade or purchase upgrade, script buy upgrade, and we need to add 3 functions here. So underneath our purchase upgrade function, I am going to add in a function called public void on mouse enter, which you can see there is already a function within Unity. We're also going to need to add one for, you can probably guess, on mouse exit. And then our final function that we want to add, our own function, doesn't need to be public, but it's going to be update text. And what this function is going to do is it's going to just update our text whenever we want it to. That's going to be the series of commands we need just to update the text with the information about the upgrade. And then whenever we want to do that, we just call this function. So for example, in public void on mouse enter, all we want to do when the mouse enters the button for the purchase upgrade is we want to update the text to say the information about that specific upgrade. So it'll tell us how much it is and what it does. So all we want to do there is call that function. So in that case, we just put update text, open close bracket, semicolon, and then that will call that function. So whenever this function is called, it just calls that function. So when we mouse over, this function gets executed. When our mouse leaves the button, we need to tell Unity to make it so that the text element is blank. Otherwise, what will happen is it will just, unless we tell it to, it will just retain the information from the last button we hovered over. So if we hover over that button, it updates the information about that upgrade, and then our mouse exits that button. Unless we tell it otherwise, it will just keep that information in there. Obviously, we don't want to do that because it'll just be confusing. So we just want to, in this instance, update our upgrade info text box to say, so upgrade info.text equals quotation marks, and I'm just going to put a space in there, put a semicolon in. So it's just going to make it appear blank, although it's just a single space. Finally, in our update text function, we want to make it say upgrade info.text. So it's referencing our upgrade info text UI, and then within that it's referencing the actual text that it says. We want it to say the name of our upgrade, upgrade name, which is this up here. So our string upgrade name, so in this case it'll say microwave, and then we want to add, so we need to say plus, and then you want to add, if you want to add in your own text, you can just add in quotation marks and type whatever, and that's what it will add in. In this case, what I want to do is I want it to say the name of the upgrade, and then next line it'll say how much the upgrade is, and then the next line it'll sort of say information about what the upgrade does. So in order to do a new line, what we can do is just go \n, and then whenever Unity reads that, it'll go, oh, that means I want to move to a new line. So that's all I want to do in this case. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to add another plus, and then I'm going to put the value of current price. So what's the current price of this? That's where it'll say. I'm also actually going to add before that a quotation mark and then a dollar symbol. You can of course use any form of currency you wish, but it's just going to make it so you know, okay, that's the amount. So really it should be a pizza symbol for this game, but we don't have that. So we've got upgrade name, then there'll be a space underneath, then dollar symbol, and then it will say what the current price is. So we use quotation marks for just text or what we want to actually type into the box, but we don't need quotation marks when we are referencing specific variables. So when Unity gets to this, it won't say upgrade name plus n plus $sign plus upgrade price. These will be swapped out for whatever the value of that variable is. So our upgrade name, it should say microwave, then a space, a $sign, then whatever the value of current price is. And then we're going to add another line underneath, and then we can add in information about the upgrade itself. So here I'm going to put upgrade to add, and then a space so it doesn't look weird, plus click power. So this, in this case, it will read 5. So upgrade to add click power, and then another plus pizzas per click. The reason I've put upgrade to add and then plus click power plus pizzas per click rather than just typing in upgrade to add 5 pizzas per click, because that would essentially do the same thing, is because say later on in development I thought, oh, well actually I don't want to add 5 pizzas per click, I want to add 3 or 1, or maybe I want the number of pizzas per click to increase with each purchase. I don't have to go in here and add a new line for every single possibility of that. I could just say, right, well, just whatever the value of click power is going to be, just say that. So it's just future proofing any potential design changes we might make to this game. Nice little semicolon there to finish off with. So I'm happy with that, and I'm just going to Control Shift and S to save on both my scripts just to make sure I've not missed anything, and head back into Unity. So normally I believe those, because those on mouse enter and on mouse exit functions are built in within Unity, they may have worked if we were dealing with non-UI elements. So say for example down here, if I added in, I don't know, a square object, a square sprite or something, and then added those functions in, it might work. It might have executed them. But UI elements work differently, unfortunately. So it's not just a simple case of playing the game and then now all of a sudden it will recognize when our mouse cursor is hovering over the button. It won't. We need to. There is another step involved with UI elements for this. So what we need to do is click our UI element button and go to add component, and we need to add something called an event trigger. So I've just typed event and I've got event trigger there, so I'm going to add that. So this allows me to add certain types of events that Unity can then react to and call functions from within our scripts that we've got attached. It works in a similar way to this section here where we've got, okay, so when this button is clicked, run this bit of code, this function from within this script. So in here, if we go add new event type, you've got a list of stuff that you can add. The top two are interesting to us because that's exactly what we want for pointer enter and pointer exit. And there's also other stuff down there, but in this case pointer enter, I'm going to add another one for pointer exit, and it's exactly the same way we added in a script for on click for the button. We're just adding it for mouse over and mouse exit. So plus, and then you've got, do that to both of these. So we need to tell it the object to look for the script to reference, in which case it's the object itself, the UI button upgrade per click. So I'm just going to click and drag that into both of these sections where it says none. That will allow me to access the script we have attached, which is our buy upgrade per click script, and within that it should have the two or even three, so it should have the other one. Oh no, yeah, so because we didn't make this update text public, it doesn't reference it. within here. So if I choose the function scripts, you can see update text is not there. Because the other ones were public, we can access these. So for pointer enter, no function, change to on mouse enter, mouse pointer, same thing. And then for pointer exit, choose that scripts, and then on mouse exit. So that should be enough to make this work. So if we hit play and hover over the button, you can see it's upgraded to tell me, oh, it's £10, $10, and it will upgrade to add 5 pizzas. You can see there's a bug here where between the 5 and the word pizzas there isn't a gap. There's also a bug, you might think, well, let's just make sure it updates as well. So if I purchase it, it's still 10. Oh no, okay. So there's a couple of bugs here. The first thing is it's $12 here, and if I purchase it, it doesn't update. The other issue is when we run the game, the text still has the gibbery that we added in until we hover over it. So let's fix those 2 bugs before we can finish up with our text box. So the first one was when we purchased the upgrade. So this one, purchased upgrade, we clicked on it, but it didn't update the text. The reason for that is we haven't told it to. We only tell it to update the text when the mouse leaves and the mouse enters the button. So in the case where we've purchased an upgrade, because the mouse has done neither of those things, it is just staying on the button, it's not executing this function, update text. So the easy thing to do is to just copy this function so we can call it when we've successfully purchased an upgrade. So when we are able to purchase an upgrade and we update all the stuff, at the end of it, let's just add in a call to that function. So it will then execute this update, and the text will update in the game. So I've saved that, added that in. Let's go and just test it out. Hit play. We've still got the gobbledygook in a minute, but if I make 10 pizzas, purchased upgrade, you can see it's updated to 12 straight away. The other thing is pretty simple. I guess we can just add void start, and then we can just set this upgrade info.text to be blank. Save that. Head back into Unity. So that means when this script is initialized, when it begins, it'll set the text to be blank, which it is, and it only says something when we've hovered over it, and then it disappears when we leave. There we go. One last thing before we wrap up here is I just want to reveal the mysteries of what this power of variable was for. So if we test the game out, making pizzas, make 10 pizzas, okay, I can upgrade to add 5, and then the next is only 12, so it's quite easily, I can 14, that's easy, and then I can just let's click it a few times, 16, I can purchase quite a few upgrades. How many is it now? Okay, I can quickly, it feels overpowered. It feels like the cost isn't updating high enough to make it feel like a challenge for me. And so the way we can combat this is by just messing around with how the value of current price updates when we successfully purchase an upgrade. So at the minute it just multiplies whatever it currently is by 1.15. There are other methods of doing this that might be more effective. So with the with the power of variable, the idea behind that was, so if I just comment this one out for the time being, so if that, just what I've done there is made that into a comment, so it will be ignored when the script is run. I'm going to add a new line, which is current price equals, we still want a a round number, so mathf.round, upper bracket. I'm also just gonna, before we start, set a base price, which is gonna be our current price at the start of the game. So I'm just gonna quickly create a new variable. It does need to be public, so it can be private, float, and this is just going to be called base price. And then in the start function, I'm going to set base price to be equal to current price. So what I want is whatever the initial price of this upgrade was, and then I'm going to use that value to determine how the price increases throughout the rest of the game. The reason I've done it the way I have is because I can't just say, well, just look at current price, because the current price will update as we purchase the upgrade. I want a reference to the whatever the current price was at the start. And the reason I've not just put in 10 here, which is what the price is, because again, if I want to change that value later on, then that value I'll have to go back in and change it myself. So what I've done here is created a new private float called base price, and at the start of the game, it sets base price to whatever I have set the current price of to whatever I have set the current price of the upgrade in the editor. So remember, I set that down here to 10 current price. So if I'd say I wanted, oh well, let's make it 12, why not? We can do that. But that means that then will update, so the base price will be 12. So I can go, okay, current price is mathf.round, take the base price of this upgrade and multiply it by mathf.pow. So what this function does is you give it two numbers and it'll say, right, multiply this number by the power of that number. So if it's 2 to the power of 2, that's 2 times 2, or 2 to the power of 3, that's 2 times 2 times 2. So we can, what I'm going to set this is, again, set, here I can hard code a value, or I can make another variable into this, but I'm going to multiply this number by to the power of our power of variable, and just end that there and set that to current price. So it's just a different way of setting a new price for our upgrade. So rather than just multiplying whatever it currently is by 1.15, so here, the first time it goes through this, power of has been added to once. So we didn't set a default value, so it starts at 0. When we purchase an upgrade, it adds 1, so it's now 1. So current price is set to a round number, which takes the base price, which is 12, we set it to just now, and multiplies that by 1.15 to the power of 1. So the first price will be exactly the same as what we set it to here, but then that will start to increase more, or maybe we want to increase it to more of an amount. We could set it to 1.75 or maybe something like that, might be a bit more. Save that. It's complaining at me here because we haven't actually closed this argument. You can see here I've got open bracket and then an open bracket and a closed bracket, so I haven't actually closed off this argument. So I'm just going to add in one there and it should be happy. There are tons of different ways that you can increase the price. The way you'll get something that works and fits right is just by messing around with it and playing with it. So now in the game, if I make some pizzas, so it starts off at 12, so if I make 12 pizzas, it's gone up to 21, so it's like doubled almost, but doesn't feel as easy. Maybe it isn't. It's still quite easy if I just do a bunch. So it's more difficult in now to update it. Oh yeah, I didn't update that add 5 pizzas per click that bug. We didn't fix that. Let's just do that quickly. So that's down here, upgrade to add, and then just add a space there. We'll solve that. There we go, fixed. Okay, in the next session, we will add another upgrade, and this one will be for automatically adding pizzas onto our turtle pizza number counter.